Morning, one and all. Today we are going to start Unit 4 Deadlocks. Right? These are the table of contents. In the deadlock, mainly we need to discuss about the deadlock characterization and what is the system model. How can we handle the deadlocks? Deadlock prevention, deadlock avoidance, and deadlock detection. These are the three main recovery from the deadlock. That means we need to know what is a deadlock and then what are the deadlock requirements. And the next one, there are 4 techniques under the deadlock. In order to handle the deadlocks, we need to prevent the deadlocks and then deadlock avoidance and then deadlock detection. The last one is a recovery from the deadlock. First of all, what is the objective of this particular chapter? So deadlocks are usually for preventing the system processes, concurrent process from completing their task. Okay, that means what are the concurrent process? If two process are willing to complete their job parallelly, for example, both the process trying to execute the things at the same time. Okay, if the process want to complete the task during its execution, it may require some resources, system resources. Okay, likewise, multiple process are willing to, or one or more process are willing to complete their task concurrently. Then what happen is when they are trying to complete their task, they require some resources. Okay, the two process might compete for the resources. There might be not the resources available completely in the machine at that time. For example, P1 process requires some of the resources, so that process avail the resources, and P2 process requires some of the resources, those are available by the P2 process. So in some situation, what happened is some of the resources required by the P1 were allocated to the P2 already, and some of the resources which were allocated to P2 or P1 are required by P2. That means P1 and P2 are the two process are willing to complete their task. For that, P1 requires some of the resources as well as P2 requires some of the resources. Here, P is the process, R is the resource. So, at that time, whatever the resources which were allocated to P1 might be needed for the P2, and whatever these resources which were allocated to the P2 might be needed by the P1. What happened here? The resources which were allocated to P2 are needed by P1, and some of the resources which were already allocated to P1 might be needed by the P2. So that both the process are now currently executing their task, right? They don't want to release the resource until they complete the execution, until they complete the execution. Okay, so both the process are not willing to release the resources. Both the process are not willing to release the resources until they until the end of the task. Okay? That is the problem here. Have you got my point? Why this problem happened? If these two processes are executed sequentially, if they are executed sequentially, then there might be not a problem. Why? Because what is a sequential execution? Sequential execution means one after the other, one after the other. One after the other means P1 completes its execution after P2 start its execution once P1 completes its execution, right? That is called as sequential execution. But in our model, so what happened here? P1 and P2 both are trying to execute the things concurrently. Concurrently means parallelly. That means at the same time. Okay, whenever they are trying to execute the task, the process might require some of the system resources. Might be P1 require R1 resource and P2 require R2 resource. Okay, so while executing the task, P2 requires R1. That means you should not Like P2 requires P2 requires R1 and P1 requires R2. But those are already allocated to R1 is allocated to P1 already and R2 is allocated to P2 already. Now P2 requires R1 and P1 requires R2, but they are allocated to some other process, right? And they under and one more point is they are under execution, right? Both the process are under execution right now. So they don't want to release the resources until they complete the task. Like that P1 is waiting for P1 is waiting for the resource which was already allocated to P2. Likewise, P2 is waiting for the resource. P2 is waiting for the resource R1, which is allocated to P1. So likewise, both the process went to the waiting state. Okay. So deadlock will be happened. They never release the resource to the other process. So it might be the reason for the deadlock. Likewise, deadlock is a situation where the process cannot continue its execution. It creates such a situation, right? So that is called as deadlock. And then what is a system model? This is about deadlock. So because of the concurrent execution, the process cannot complete its task. Okay. And next, what is a deadlock? And then what is a system model? System model means here we have two things you need to understand. That is the system consists of so many resources. As I told you, there are different types of resources in a machine. What are those? What are the system resources? CPU cycle is a system resource, memory is a system resource, and then files are the system resources. So all these resources might be used by the process when the process is executing the task, right? So usually the resources are represented with the symbol R and the process is represented with the symbol P. Okay. And next, one more thing what you need to understand is whenever the process want to complete its task, it need to follow three things. The first one is it need to request for the process. The process need to be um, requested the resource and then it has to use the resource and then after using the resource, the process need to release the resource. What are the three steps? Okay, is it clear now? What the process has to do? The process has to request the resource, use the resource, and then release the resource. It has to request for the resource. After that, it has to use the resource, and then at the end, it has to release the resource. Okay, that is about the system model, right? And then one more thing I would like to inform you right at this moment. So here we have one resource, right? Resources have many number of instances. Many instances. What is many instances? Many instances means, for example, in our system, if there is only one resource available, okay, we can represent it as with a single dot. That means only one type of only one resource of the type is available. For example, there is a resource called R2. We have multiple resources available of type R2. So each dot represents a instance. That means in a system, R2 type of resources, three number of R2 type of resources are available. In a system, only one R1 type of resource is available. Okay. Are you got my point? There might be different disk 0, disk 1, like that, or mag tape 0, tape 1, like that. That means here we have two discs, here we have two tapes. Okay, that is called as instance. Okay, here in this particular example it is represented like a dot. By using this, how can we by using this, what we can say, there is only one R1 type of a resource available. There is three types of three R2 type of resources are available. That those are called as, usually we call, instances. Okay. And next, there are four necessary conditions for the deadlock. What are the necessary conditions for the deadlock? Mutual exclusion, hold and wait, no preemption, circular wait. Okay, no need to read out entire thing. I will explain. What are the necessary conditions for the deadlock? Otherwise, we can call them deadlock characteristics. So, what are deadlock characteristics? There are four network. There are four deadlock characteristics. First one is mutual exclusion. Very important, mutual exclusion. And the second one is no preemption. And the third one is hold and wait. The fourth one is circular wait. So very, very important. In the gate examinations or in the interview, or in the interview point of view, these things are very much important, right? Mutual exclusion. What is mutual exclusion? Mutual exclusion means only one process at a time can use the resource. What is mutual exclusion? Only one process at a time. Only one process at a time use the resource. That means whenever the resource is allocated to some other process, no other process is allowed to access that particular resource. Why? Because it is already allocated to one process. That means after using the resource, the process will release the resource, then only it will be used by the some other process. That means at a time we allow only one process to access the resource. I repeat, we allow only one process at a time to access the resource. And the next one is no preemption. What is no preemption? No preemption. At the time of CPU scheduling algorithms, we had a discussion about preemption and no preemption algorithms. What is no preemption? No preemption means the process never release the resource until the completion of task. For example, whenever you assign or allocate a resource to the particular process, the process will use the resource. After completing the task, the process will release the resource. Okay, the process will never release the resource while it doing the execution. That is called as no preemption. That means the process requested for the resource. If it is available, the operating system will allocate the resource to the process, and then the process will use the resource, and then it will release the resource at the end of the task only. That means after termination only the resource is available to the some other process. We cannot take the resource from the process at the time of execution. Okay, that is called as no preemption. What is hold and wait? What is hold and wait? Hold and wait means the process is holding one resource and wait for the another resource. Have you got my point? The process is holding a resource and waiting for the another resource. Hold and wait. For example, P1 is holding a resource R1 and it is waiting for the another resource R2. That means here R1 is allocated to P1. That means right now P1 has one resource R1 and it is waiting for the another resource that is called as R2, right? Why? Because it is allocated to the some other process might be. So P1 is allocated R1 and it is waiting for the another resource that is called as hold and wait. Okay, it is holding a resource and waiting for the another resource. That is the reason why it is called as hold and wait. It is another reason for the deadlock. So what is the first reason for the deadlock? Only one process at a time. Only one process at a time allowed to use the resource. And next, what is no preemption? Process never release the resource until it completes the task. Okay, and then hold and wait means process is allocated one resource and it is waiting for the another resource. And what is circular wait? P1 is waiting for the resource which was allocated to the P2. P2 is waiting for the resource allocated to P3 and P3 is waiting for a resource which was allocated to P4. Again P4 is waiting for the resource which is allocated for P1. What happened here? All the processes are waiting in a circular fashion, right? So then a loop will form, so automatically it will create a deadlock. Are you got my point? P1 is waiting for a resource which was allocated to P2 and P2 is waiting for the resource which was allocated to P3 and P3 is waiting for the resource which was already allocated to P4 and P4 is waiting for the resource which was allocated to P1. So then a cycle will form, right? This is also a reason for the deadlock. So these are the four necessary conditions for the deadlock: mutual exclusion, no preemption, hold and wait, circular wait. What is mutual exclusion? Only one process at a time is allowed to is is allowed to only one process at a time is allowed to use the resource. What is no preemption? Process never release the resource until it completes the task. What is hold and wait? P1 is holding a resource and it is waiting for the resource which was allocated to the some other process. What is circular wait? P1 is waiting for P2. P1 is waiting for the resource which was allocated to P2 and P2 is waiting for the resource which was allocated to P3 and P3 is waiting for the resource which was allocated to P4 and then again P4 is waiting for the resource which was allocated to P1, so that there is a circle, right? So whenever the process are waiting for the resource in a circular fashion, then automatically it will create a loop which causes the deadlock. Okay, so these are the four necessary conditions for the deadlock. No need to read out again. If you want, I will read out for you. Mutual exclusion. Only one process at a time can use the resource. Hold and wait. The process is holding at least one resource and waiting to acquire the other resource which was already held by the other process. I already told you here. Here P1 is P1 was allocated one resource. That means it is right now holding a resource and it is waiting for the resource R2 which was already allocated to some other process. No preemption. A resource can be released only voluntarily. So we cannot take the resource forcefully from a process. A resource can be released by the process voluntarily. Okay, after process completes its task. During the execution forcefully we cannot take the resource from a process. Okay, first in first out is best example for the no preemption. Why? Because in the first in first out, first come first serve. What is first come first serve? It is a CPU scheduling algorithm. A process is allocated to CPU is allocated to a process. Okay, once the process completes its task, automatically in the case of FCFS, what we did? CPU scheduling algorithm. For example, there are three processes P1, P2, P3. So P1 requires 2 minutes of CPU time, P2 requires 3 minutes of CPU time, and P3 requires maybe 4 milliseconds of CPU time. Then what happened? So we allocate CPU to P1. Okay, after 2 milliseconds, P1 completes its task, and then only we are switching the CPU from P1 to P2. Okay, now P2 is using 3 milliseconds of CPU time. After completing the P2 only, we'll switch the CPU from P2 to P3. That means after the completion of a task only, the resource CPU will be allocated to some other process, not in the middle of the execution, right? That is the reason why FCF, FCFS is comes under non-preemption, non-preemption, right? And the next one, what about round robin? What about round robin? Round robin is a preemption algorithm. Round robin is preemption algorithm. Why it is called as preemption algorithm? For example, here there are three number of process P1, P2, P3, and next P1 require 4 milliseconds of CPU time, and P2 require 3 milliseconds of CPU time, and P3 require 5 milliseconds of CPU time. This is called as a burst time, for example. Okay, so what is the time quantum? What is the time quantum here? Time quantum, for example, 3. So how much time the CPU will be allocated to each process? Each process only 3 milliseconds of time, CPU time will be given to the individual process. First I will give a chance to P1. Okay, after 3 milliseconds, so the P1 task will not complete. Why? Because it requires 4 milliseconds of time, CPU time, but you have assigned only 3 milliseconds of time. So that means still P1 requires 1 millisecond of CPU time. But we are forcefully take the CPU from P1 and we allocate it to P2. After that, for P2 also, we will give only 3 milliseconds of time. But P2 require 6 milliseconds of time in order to complete its task. But we are forcefully, we take the CPU from P2 and we allocate it to the P3. Again for P3, we only give a 3 milliseconds of time. That means we are taking the CPU from process after 3 milliseconds of time. We are taking the CPU, take away the CPU from the process after 3 milliseconds. Whether the process completes its execution or it may not complete the execution. After 3 milliseconds, forcefully, we take the CPU from the process and we allocate it to the some other process for 3 milliseconds. That is the reason why round robin, in the round robin, we are forcefully taking a resource from a process. Here the resource is CPU time. CPU cycle is the resource. That is the reason why round robin comes under preemption. Okay. No need to discuss all these things here, but just what I'm trying to do is I need to remind you one more time what is a preemption and what is a non-preemption. Okay. It is called as a non-preemption. Right. The next one is hold and wait. I already told you P1 is waiting for the resource. P1 is holding one resource and waiting for the resource which was allocated to some other process. Circular wait means P1 is waiting for the resource which was allocated to P2 and P2 is waiting for the resource which was allocated to P3 and so on. Pn is waiting for the resource which was allocated to P1. Like that there is a circle. And the next one is the resource allocation graph. So what is resource allocation graph? Here we have vertices as well as edges. As I told you, the process is represented with the help of P. How many number of processes system consists of? From P1 to Pn. Process 1, process 2, so on, process n. Likewise, in our system, we have a resources. Resource is represented by R. Process is represented by P. Okay, the resources are also n resources are available in system r1 r2 so on rn rm. Okay, so here we have two things, one is a request edge and the second one is a assignment edge. So you came to know what is requested and what is assignment edge. So at the time of graph I will show you. So these are the symbols used to represent the each one in the diagram, right? So process is usually represented in a circle. Resource is represented with a rectangle. I already told you resource type. For example, a resource type, there are four instances of one resource type. So here these small blocks are there in the rectangle, right? So in the square, sorry. Usually we need to represent it the rectangle. So this is a rectangle. Okay. So here inside the rectangle, we have a four dots, right? So those dots represent four instances. That means we have four resources of that type. We have four resources of that type. And then what is a request edge? What is a assignment edge? I already told you there are two types of edges: request edge and assignment edge. Requesting means P1 is requesting for something. P1, this is a process and this is a resource, right? P1 is requesting. So the arrow mark should be from process to resource. The arrow mark should be from process to resource. That means P1 is requesting or PI is requesting. Process is requesting for a resource. So this type of edge is called as, follow the cursor. This type of edge is called as request edge. Okay, so what about this one? This is called as assignment edge. Why? Because from the resource to a process, from the resource to a process, that means the resource is allocated to the process, that is assigned to the process. So that is the reason why it is assignment edge. What it is called as request edge. Why? Because from a process to a resource, process is requesting the resource, so that it is directed to the resource from a process. Whereas what is assignment edge? From the resource to process, this is called as assignment edge. Okay, now this is the example for the resource allocation graph. Here, how many number of resources are available? There are four types of resources. As I told you, resource is represented with a rectangle. So R1, R2, R3, R4 are the four resources. Okay. How many number of instances of there? R1, only one instance. That means only R1 type of resource, only one resource is available of type R1. Likewise, R3 also only one type of R3 is available. And next R2, there are two resources, two instances of R2 type is available. And next R4, coming to R4, we have three instances of R4 resources are available. Okay. So here, if you observe, follow the cursor, P1. P1 is requesting R1. R1 is allocated to P2. So please follow the cursor. P1 is requesting for R1 and R1 is assigned to P2. And next P2 is requesting P3 and P3 is allocated to R3 is allocated to P3. I repeat, P1 is requesting R1. R1 is assigned to P2. P2 is requesting R3. R3 is assigned to P3. Okay. And then here we have observe there are two types of resources. Uh, there are two R2 type resources. One resource is allocated to P2 and one resource is allocated to P1. Is there any graph? Is there any cycle in this particular one? There is no cycle. Okay. Here, if you observe here, is there any cycle here? No. I will draw it for you. If you observe here, as I told you, process is represented with a circle. And in our example, we have a resource, four resource R1, R3, and then R2, R4. Okay. P1 is requesting R1. and it is assigned to P2. P2 is requesting R3 and it is assigned to P3. And P1 is requesting for the resource R2 and one more resource is there that is assigned to P1. So for example, if there is only one instance of R2, then automatically there will be a circle. There will be a circle. Okay, there is a circle. But here in our example, if you carefully observe the diagram, here we have two types of instances. One instance is assigned to P1 and P2 is requesting for another resource. So there is no need of forming a loop here. There is no need. Loop is not formed here. Why? Because there are two types of instances available. That means if you redraw the diagram like this, then you came to know there is a no connection here. There is a no loop here. Why? Because how many number of resources are available? This is one R2 type resource and this is another R2 resource type, right? This was requested by, one is requested by P2 and one is assigned to P1. There is no loop, right? Here there is a gap. If you draw like this, then you came to understand, but you should not draw like this in the examination. Okay. As there are two instances available, E2 is requesting one instance and already there is one more instance which was allocated to P1. So there is no circle in this particular graph. So this is called as resource allocation graph. Which resources are allocated to which process? So resource allocation graph. Okay. The resources are R and process is P, and P resources are represented with a rectangle and process is represented with a circle. Okay. Dots means instances, right? That is about resource allocation graph. If there is a cycle in the resource allocation graph, it means it leads to the deadlock. If there is no cycle in the, if there is no cycles in the resource allocation graph, it indicates that there is no deadlock. If there is a cycle, then there will be a deadlock. Now observe here in this particular diagram, there is a deadlock. There is a deadlock. Follow the cursor. Follow the cursor, please. Here, if you observe, P2 is requesting R3 and R3 is allocated to P3 and P3 is requesting one resource and P2 is also, P1 is also requesting one resource. The outer part is the deadlock. This is the deadlock. This one is already allocated to P2. No need to worry about this particular line. This resource was already allocated to P2. Okay. So what happened here? P1 is waiting. P1 is waiting for the resource R1 and R1 is allocated to P2. That means indirectly P1 is waiting for P2. And then P2 is requesting R3 and it is allocated to P3. That means indirectly P2 is waiting for P3. That means P1 is waiting for P2 and P2 is waiting for the P3. Okay. So after that P3 is waiting for the resource and it was allocated to P1. That means indirectly P3 is waiting for P1. I repeat, P1 is waiting for the resource R1. R1 is allocated to P2. That means indirectly P1 is waiting for P2. And next P2 is waiting for R3. R3 was allocated to P3. That means indirectly P2 is waiting for P3. P3 was waiting for one resource and it was allocated to P1. P2 also, but P1. That means P3 is waiting for P1. So there is a circle. P1 to P2, P2 to P3, again P3 to P1. That is circular weight. Okay. If it is a circular weight, there is a cycle. If there is a cycle, then there is a chance of deadlock. Okay. And next, a graph with a cycle but no deadlock. Observe here, P1, there are two types of resources. One resource is assigned to P2. We don't need to worry about this one. Carefully observe here, follow the cursor. P1 is waiting for resource and it is allocated to P3. That means P1 is waiting for P3. And next P3 is waiting for the resource R2 and it is assigned to P1. Here there is a circle, but there is no deadlock. Why there is no deadlock? Why? Because there is one more resource R1 is allocated to P2. There is another resource R2 which was allocated to P4 and they are not waiting for any other resources and they are not waiting for the any other resources. So P1, P2 might complete its task soon or P4 might complete its task soon. So what happened? If P2 completes its task, follow the cursor. If P2 completes its task, automatically the resource R1 will be released by the P2 after use the resource. Likewise, P4 also after use the resource, it will also release the resource soon. Okay. So P1 is no need to wait for only P3 and P3 is no need to wait for only P1. Okay. Why? Because R1 might be released by R1 might, it may, here P3 is a waiting process and P1 is also a waiting process. So P1 is waiting for which process, which resource? R1. R1 was allocated to P3 as well as P2. Okay. So P3 is a waiting process, but P2 is not waiting process. Why P3 is called as waiting process? Why? Because now R1 is hold by the P3 and it is wait for the R2. It is waiting for R2, right? Whereas P1 is requesting R1 and already P1 has R2. That means these two resources are holding a resource and waiting for the other resource. But here that 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 wait is not infinity. There is a there is a chance of getting a resource in another fashion. What is the other way? So P2 has a resource R1 and P4 has a resource R2. So P2 after completing the task, P2 will release the resource. After completing the task, P4 is also release the resource R2. Why? Because here we have two instances of R1 and two instances of R2. So either P2 may release first or P4 may release first. So that the released resource R1 will be assigned to P1. The released resource R2 will be assigned to P3. So P1 is no need to wait for only P3 or P3 is no need to wait for only P1 for the resources. Why? Because there are other two processes called P2 and P4. They might complete the task and they might release the resources. So even though there is a cycle, there is no deadlock. Okay. As I told you, if there is a cycle, a graph contains no cycles, no deadlock. If a graph contains a cycle, what you need to do? We need to check only one instance of a resource available, then it is a deadlock. If several instances per a resource type, possibility of deadlock, that means we cannot say that there is a deadlock because there is a cycle. Okay. Only with the cycles we cannot measure the deadlock whether it happened or not. Okay, we need to identify the number of instances available of the type resource. Okay, so based upon that we can judge whether there is a chance of deadlock or not. Okay, and next methods handling for the deadlock. So as I told you, there are total four things. One is a deadlock prevention and the next one is a deadlock avoidance. Okay, we need to prevent the system. We should not go to the deadlock. We need to take the preventive measures before going to the deadlock. For example, if there is a rainy season, before going outside, we need to take some precautions. We need to take the umbrella, and next to we should not drink cold water. Okay, so we need to take care, and next to our environment need to be very hygiene, and especially at the time of rainy season. So all these precautions we will take care, right? So we'll go for hot water, right? So like that, we will take some preventive measures in order to in order to avoid the cold, right? So all these things like we will follow similar fashion in the system also. We need to take some preventive measures so that we no need to go to the deadlock state. Okay, and then the third step, if there is a deadlock, what we happen if we detect the end, unfortunately we enter into the deadlock state, what we need to do, we need to recover from the deadlock. Okay, and the last one is ignore the problem. Deadlock, we pretend that deadlock will never occur in the system. That is the last one. Okay, so deadlock prevention. What is deadlock prevention? As I already told you, what are the necessary conditions for the deadlock? What are the necessary conditions for the deadlock? Mutual exclusion, hold and wait, circular wait, no preemption. Because of that reason, deadlock will occur into the machine, either for because of mutual exclusion, or because of hold and wait, or because of a circular wait, or non-preemption. So these are the reasons for enter into the deadlock. So what we need to do, so we should avoid happening these four situations in our system, so that deadlock will not occur, we can prevent the deadlock state. Okay, the first one is mutual exclusion. Mutual exclusion means at a time only one process use the resource. I repeat, what is mutual exclusion? At a time only one process is allowed to use the resource at the same time. Okay, so there are two types of resources. What are those? Shared resources, non-shareable resource. What is the example for non-shareable resource? Printer. At a time, two process cannot take a print. At the same time, we cannot take the two prints. One after the other will get, right? That means printer is a non-shareable device. Once you take the one process will take the printout first. After that, the second process will take the printout next. At the same time, two process at the same time cannot take the printouts by using a printer. So why? Because printer is a non-shareable device. We need to use the printer sequentially, one after the other. Okay. First process will use the printer resource, and it will release the resource. After that, second process will take the printout. That means use the printer. Okay. Printer is a non-shareable device. Okay, in order to avoid mutual exclusion, for example, some of the resources are shareable resource. Shareable resource means file. Now I am showing you the PPT here. What is here the PPT? It is a file, right? Everyone is, how many number of participants are there? All the 52 participants are watching the PPT. That means all you are reading the PPT right now. I am also reading the PPT. You are also reading the PPT. That means multiple number of process. For example, I am one process, you are another process, and your friend is another process. Like totally 52 participants, 52 process are using the same PPT. All are reading the same PPT. That means the PPT file is a readable, and it is shareable. Because of that reason, everyone is reading at the same time. Why? Because it is a shareable resource. Okay, so mutual exclusion we can avoid if we have more number of shareable resources in a machine. So automatically we can assign, we can avoid mutual exclusion problem. If more number of shareable resources are there, then automatically those resources are shared among the process. So all the process can use the resource at the same time. What is mutual exclusion? Only one process need to use the resource at a time. But if it is a shareable resource, more number of process can use the resource at the same time. Here the example is a file. File can be read by any number of process. Okay, why? Because the file is a shareable resource. And the next one is hold and wait. So what is hold and wait? The process is holding one resource and requesting for the another resource which was allocated to some other process. For example, P1 is holding R1 and it is waiting for the resource R2 which was allocated to P2. That is called as hold and wait. So how can we avoid? Whenever the process requesting a new resource, require process to request and we allocated all the resources, whatever the requested resources we want to allocate to the process. Before that, we need to check whether we are allocating all the resources which are required of process or not. That means, for example, P1 is trying to execute the task. At that time, P1 requires three types of resources. What you need to do? You need to allocate all the three resources which are required for the execution. Otherwise, you should not allocate the resources. That means P1 requires three resources, but only two resources are available. So you should not allocate two resources to the process. Either you need to allocate all the three resources whenever they are available, or you are not allowed to allocate the resources to the process. If you want to allocate, you need to allocate all the three. If they are not available, all three are not available, you should not allocate any one resource to the particular process. If you want to allocate, you need to allocate completely, or otherwise the process need to wait until all the resources are available in a machine. That is the first point. So it leads to the low resource utilization. Why? Because, for example, the process requires 10 resources. 9 resources are available now. After, at the end of the execution, it requires a printer in order to take the printout. That is the last task. Before that, it requires 9 system resources. For example, the last one is a printer. Okay, initially when the process start execution, it doesn't require the printer now. At the end of the time, it requires the printer. Because of that particular but particular reason, because of the printer is not available right now. Now it is utilized by the or used by the some other process. The printer is not available, but the remaining 9 out of 9 resources are available in a mission. But we are waiting for all the total 10 resources in order to avoid hold and wait. So because of that reason, it may create a problem called low resource utilization. Okay, either you need to allocate all the resources, allow process to request the resources only when the process has none allocated to it. That means two things you need to observe here. Here there are two conditions. Here we have two conditions. What is the condition number one? Assign all the resources. Assign all the resources to a process initially when it requests. Okay, at the starting of the execution only, we need to allocate all the required resources. For example, R1, R2, R3, it requires all the three we need to assign to the process at once if they are available, or we should not assign any of the individual resource, either three or none. That is the first one. Second one, for example, P1 is willing to, P1 is already having R1 right now. It requires R2 and R3. What the process need to do? The process need to release the R1 first, and then it is trying to request for R2 and R3. Hold and wait. Hold and wait means whenever the process is requesting for a resource, it should not hold any of the resource. That means P1 need to release the resource R1 and it needs to request for R2 and R3. Okay, while holding a resource, the process is not allowed to request for a resource. Okay, in order to avoid hold and wait situation, what we need to do, whenever the process is requesting for the resources. Before that, the process has to release the allocated resource, and then it is allowed to request for the new resources. That is the thing. It also creates a problem called low resource utilization. Why low resource utilization? For example, one process requires two resources. For example, R1 and R2. So initially R1 was allocated to P1, and R1 is used by P1 from last 10 milliseconds of time, right? Suddenly P1 requires R2. So at that time, what it has to do? It need to release the R1 and it need to request for R2. Okay, na? Now the after 10 just P1 is completes its task within 2 milliseconds. That means P1 is at last stage of execution. At that time, P1 has to release the R1 and it need to request for the R2. So anyhow, okay, we will assign R2 to the P1. But R1 is not available, right? It requires both R1 and R2 in order to complete the task. So within the 2 minutes, the process is 2 milliseconds, the process is going to complete its execution. And from the past 10 milliseconds, we are executing that particular process. Because of this 2 milliseconds of time, uh, um, what we are doing, we are not allowing the process to take the R2. Why? Because it is already having R1. So this is not a good idea. Why? Because the process is using the resource from so much of time. At the last, it requires a resource for only 2 milliseconds. But for that reason, the process has to release the earlier resource R1. Then only we are allowing the process to use the next resource. So even for 2 milliseconds of time. So this is not a good idea. Okay. And the next one, no preemption. What is no preemption? No preemption means if a process holding the request, read the first line, you came to understand. If a process that is holding some resources request another resource that cannot be immediately allocated to it, then all the resources currently being held are released. That means whenever a process holding some resources and it is requesting for the another resource that might be cannot be immediately allocated to it. Whenever it requests a process, we cannot immediately allocate to it the resource. Why? Because it already using the some resources. So after that, what the process has to do, all the resources currently being held are released. So whenever they are currently the process is using some resources, the process need to release the resources first. That means preempted resources are added to the list of resources for which the process is waiting. That preempted resources means, what is preemption? Preemption means forcefully we are taking the resources from a process in the middle of the execution. So those resources are listed. So if any process requires any of the resource, so we can assign the resource to that particular process from the preempted list of resources. Okay. Process will be restarted. Third line. Process will be restarted only when it regain its old resources as well as the new ones that is requesting. That means what is preemption actually? What is non-preemption? Non-preemption means ప్రాసెస్కి రీసోర్స్ అలొకేట్ చేసాము అంటే అది కంప్లీట్ అయ్యేంత వరకు రిలీజ్ చేయదు. ప్రియంషన్ అంటే ప్రాసెస్కి మనం రీసోర్స్ అలొకేట్ మిడిల్లో కూడా మనం ఆ రీసోర్స్ని ప్రాసెస్ నుంచి తీసుకోవచ్చు. Forcefully we are not allowed to take a resource from a process. That is called as non-preemption. Voluntarily the process has to release the resource. Okay. Here also, whenever P1 requires three resources, R1 and R2 are already allocated to P1. Okay, now P1 requires R3. So what the process has to do in order to get the R3 resource, even it not completes its execution, for temporarily P1 is releasing R1 and R2. Okay, after some time, whenever all the three are resources are available, we'll assign the resources to the process. That means process itself voluntarily release the resource. Why? Because it requires R3 resource right now. Then only it can complete its task. Have you got my point? P1 has uh, two resources, R1 and R2. Now P1 requires R3. Okay, for that purpose, P1 is already holding some resources, now R1 and R2. In order to get the new resource, what the process has to do? It has voluntarily released the R1 and R2 resources for temporary basis. So whenever the all the three resources are available, then it will take the resources. So forcefully we are not taking the resources from the process. The process itself voluntarily gives the resources. Why? Because it requires another resources. According to our rule, the process should not hold the resource and wait for the another resource. For that purpose, the process voluntarily uh, uh, release the resource, and whenever they are available, all three are assigned to that particular process. And then circular wait. What is circular wait? P1 is waiting for the resource which is allocated to P2, and P2 is waiting for the resource which is allocated to P3, and so on. P3 is again waiting for the resource which is allocated to P1. So that is the circular wait. So how can we avoid circular wait? So only the here observe, each process requests resources in an increasing order of enumeration. That means what is circular wait? What is circular wait? P1 is waiting for the resource which is allocated to P2, and P2 is allocated to resource which is allocated to P3, and again swan Pn is waiting for the resource which is allocated to P1. So circle form, right? How can we avoid this one? So every time the process need to request the or wait for the resource which is allocated to the next process. It should not request the process which is having the minimum process number. That means P2 has to wait for P3 or P4 or P5. It should not wait for the resource which is available at P1. Likewise, already the every time the process is requesting the or waiting for the resource which are available in the other process in a forwarded direction. That means P3 need to wait for P4 only. It should not go for P2, or it should not go for P1. They are not requesting the resources. P3 is not allowed to request the resource which is available at P2. Why? Because 2 is less than 3. Are you got my point? Like that, every time the process need to request the resources in an increasing order of enumeration only. That means P1 P4 is allowed to request any of the process resources. That means P4 can wait for P5, P6, P7, so on, any number. But P4 should not request the resource or wait for the resource which is available to either P1 or P2 or P3. Why? Because 4 is greater than 1, 2, 3. So there will be a no cycle. Okay. Likewise, we can prevent the deadlocks. What is mutual exclusion? With the help of shareable resource, we can allow multiple number of resources, use the multiple number of process, use the resource at the same time. Actually, what is mutual exclusion? Only one process at a time can use the resource. But with the help of shareable resources, multiple process can share the same resource at the same time. And next, hold and wait. Hold and wait means the process should not hold the resources when it requesting for the other resource. First, the process has to release the resources and then it need to request. No preemption means whenever the process requires a new resource, it has to release the old resources which are allocated to it earlier, voluntarily, and then whenever they are available, the process will get all the three at once. Circular wait means the process should request for the resources in an increasing order of enumeration only. Okay, then we can avoid the circles. So all these are the four techniques we can avoid the mutual exclusion. Why we are discussing only these four? Why? Because mutual exclusion, non-preemption, circular wait, hold and wait. These four are the necessary conditions for the deadlock. That means these are the reasons for the deadlock situation in our system, right? So we can solve all these four problems. If you are able to solve all these four problems, then there will be a no deadlock. So that is called as deadlock prevention. In the next class, we'll discuss about deadlock avoidance. Okay. Do you have any doubts till now? Do you have any doubts? Let me know. So in the fourth unit, you have two concepts. One is the process synchronization, and the next one is deadlock. Okay, I will wind up the session. Thank you.